Hello and welcome to Football Friday on Bay TV. We're here every Friday to talk all things football. I'm Jennifer Jewell and as always join us in the studio we've got Graeme and David Fairclough. Loads to get through this week on the show. We're going to look back at last week's Premier League fixtures in just a moment, but I first want to talk about last night's Europa League games. David, we will start with Liverpool unfortunately. They didn't make it through, but what did you make of the game on a whole?
I thought Liverpool started off quite well and it seemed like it was going to be a reasonable European away performance. They settled quite good, they controlled the play, they worked their way into the game, I think, and created one or two really good opportunities. So at half-time, despite having missed a few opportunities, I was quite pleased how Liverpool were playing. Second half performance, though, really did fade and it looked, they looked short of our ideas, they looked tired, I thought. Never really looked like they were capable of scoring a goal, and the worry was perhaps as Besiktas got stronger, if they did score a goal, would Liverpool have enough to perhaps somehow find a way back into it?
I mean, no Gerrard, no Henderson, no Coutinho as well. Well, Liverpool missing a bit of strength in that midfield last night, did you find?
Yeah, I think so. I think some presence, some ingenuity as well, really. Whilst they did create one or two good opportunities, some of the counter-attacking play was really promising. I think you sensed as the game went on that the midfield was becoming more of an issue and Liverpool were light in there. We weren't winning the ball. We allowed them to control the game really, very much in the second half. So I think there was a shortness of personnel. Brendan didn't really have many options, what with a couple of injuries and obviously losing the likes of Gerrard and Lucas, mainstays really.
Absolutely. Now, Daniel Sturridge has come under for a little bit of criticism since he's returned. He did come back with a goal instantly when on his return, but he hasn't been able to find that form since, has he?
It's very difficult, isn't it? You've got to give him time. You know, he's been out for an awful long time. You know, so it's a case of nursing yourself back in. And I think the pressure shouldn't just be on him. But as David says, I think that when you miss Coutinho as well, I think a very influential player. If he's not playing, you look at Liverpool and thinking, oh, it's all going on Daniel Sturridge, and it shouldn't be, because he's got to feel his way back in. Give him another week or so, and I'm sure he'll be back, Jen. But it was always going to be difficult in Besiktas. It wasn't an easy trip, no. Tough place to go. They go there with a slender 1-0. So I always thought it was going to be a difficult game for them. They were always going to get opportunities and they hit the crossbar. But they'll be disappointed Liverpool they went out. I think Brendan wanted to progress and hopefully win that trophy.
Is he missing a steady partnership, which is obviously what he had last season with Suarez, who done so well midweek, as we all saw against Barcelona? Is he missing that solid partnership that he got so used to last season?
We started last night with Sturridge and Balotelli, and perhaps people thought that was a good option and maybe the right way to go. Unfortunately, we didn't get the goal that you need. If you're going to play with the two strikers, then it's got to work for you. If you don't score goals, then at some point the strain is going to show somewhere in the midfield areas. The little hope maybe that Sterling, Sturridge and Balotelli were all going to sort of combine as they did earlier in the season against Tottenham hasn't quite materialised just yet. Although I think probably the jury's out on Balotelli. I think his performances and his efforts has been better, but still in all he gets himself into silly situations and last night, I mean, it was kind of an accident waiting to happen. He picked up his yellow card very early. You wonder now, how is that going to affect him for the rest of the game? So probably Brendan was thinking as the game wore on that, we'd best to bring him out rather than to leave him on with the potential of picking up another yellow card.
Yeah, I think as well, David, it's with Balotelli as well. As players, you need a run of games, don't you? It's hard just getting put in for one and taken out and not getting another goal. I think you need a run of games to get your form, and I think with Sturridge, the more games he plays, he'll get back to the form that Liverpool fans know he can produce. But Balotelli as well, it's a difficult one because every time he plays, the spotlight's on him. What's he going to do? Is he going to last the 90 minutes? Is he going to get sent off? I just think if he was given a run of games, I know it's not going to be possible, but if he's given a run of games, then I think you can judge him. But I think the fact that it hasn't been consistent enough and he hasn't been given a consistent run, it's a hard one to judge.
Does he need to be given the benefit of the doubt then, does he, by fans for that?
Yeah, I think he will have his fair share of of knockers. People will choose to pick on him just because of of his start. Really, I think you've got to give him a little bit of a chance, though. He does seem to be trying harder. He put a lot of effort in at times yesterday. Granted, there was a little bit of a sideshow going on. He did look always as if he was on the edge of something. It was no surprise to see him pick up a yellow card. But the hopes are that if they can spend more time on the field together, Sturridge and Balotelli can produce a reasonable partnership. Balotelli set up Sturridge for a good opportunity in the first half, and certainly Sturridge should have done better. But that, I think that is down to perhaps that little bit of staleness that is in Sturridge's game. He was fortunate to score the goal on his first appearance. That took the pressure off him slightly. But still in all, you can't expect wonders, and it can't happen game after game, having been out for so long. So we've got to be a little bit patient with Sturridge. He certainly hasn't sort of found his top gear just yet. But with perhaps a big game coming up, well, a couple of big games now coming up, maybe timing might be on his side.
Let's hope so. He did come off, and Balotelli also came off, so they weren't part of that penalty shootout that did decide that Liverpool didn't make it through to the next round. It's never nice to go out on a penalty shootout, is it, David?
No, disappointed. Maybe it was fitting in some ways that it went to a penalty shootout, given the fact that we had the penalty shootout there 10 years ago. But unfortunately, this time, fortune wasn't with Liverpool, and I think we just said, we made reference of it before. Maybe Lovren could have done without being in the spotlight as on the last penalty, and unfortunate that it fell to him. But no, we've got to look at it in a positive way. We move on. It gives us sort of some freedom in terms of the fixture list, because the fixture list will be very congested with progress in the Europa League. Having said that, Liverpool, have a great tradition in European football, and it will be disappointing for most fans to see us go out the competition in such a way.
And they do have to make now the Champions League places in the league to get to that competition next year, which I'm sure they can do, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But I'm going to move on now to Everton's game. A lot more of a positive result for Everton, wasn't it? 7-2 on aggregate.
Yeah,
Not bad.
It was. Jen, I think you're going into the second leg and you're thinking, the tie's already won, but you've got to be wary. Anything can happen. The young boy scored first as well last night. And I think for the first 20 minutes, they were on top. They were passing the ball well. They got the goal. The crowd became edgy. So it wasn't a great performance from Everton the first 20 minutes. I thought young boys were the better side. But as we've seen so many times at Goodison in the European campaign this year, they turned it around and they got the goals. Lukaku, 2 goals again for him, which was fantastic. Morales on the mark as well. But for me, the player who has changed Everton in the last 2 games has been Darren Gibson. He's been out for a long time, Darren. But he, for me, is the only midfield player. I'm not saying the only midfield player, but a midfield player who looks forward at every opportunity and looks to put a pass in. The pass he put through to Kevin Morales was outstanding. So, a lot of pluses from the game last night. Obviously, we're through to the next round, the next stage. Interesting to see who we get, but I think the big positive over, not just last night, but the league game as well, was Darren Gibson's return to form.
Absolutely. Now, we are filming this just before the draw's done. You just referenced it there. Which teams would you like to avoid in the next round? Because there's some very, very good teams left in that competition.
We were just going through it before we came on air, and
we've got a list here.
Yeah, we've got. You said before, Jen, there's 5 Italian teams in there, so some tough teams in there. Listen, again, you really don't want to go to the likes of Zenit or Dnipro in terms of travelling for the supporters. Obviously, from a totally selfish point of view, you want something close by. Ajax, Bruges would be ideal. For me personally, I wouldn't mind going to Seville. It's a fantastic city.
Winter sun?
Yeah, a bit of winter sun, David. But they're all tough teams in there now. That's the quality. Inter Milan are in there. They beat Celtic, Napoli. So there's some ones you're looking at there and you're thinking you want to stay well away from. I know I was speaking to a lot of Everton supporters last night. They want to have another crack at Villarreal. They feel hard done by many years ago by Villarreal, so they want to go back there and maybe get a little bit of revenge. But whoever we get, it's going to be really, really interesting.
Definitely, and I think a key player for that next round, he seems to be thriving in this Europa League competition, is Romelu Lukaku. He scored his 100th career goal last night at just the age of 21. That's a great achievement, isn't it, David?
Yeah, he's in good run of form. Obviously, the hat-trick the other week, has sort of set him up nicely. Goal last weekend, 2 last night. It's great. That's what strikers are looking for, aren't they? A little bit of a boost, a confidence, lift, and he goes on a run. So no, I think that'll do him no harm whatsoever. Certainly, he had a little bit of indifferent publicity before he got on this little bit of a run, and now that's all behind him. Roberto Martinez is talking about him in a very positive light, and I'm sure he's sort of feeling the benefit of that.
He's making up, isn't he, for those comments he made?
Definitely. So again, we listen to the comments he's supposed to have made, Jen, and were they true? You know, where did they come from? But I think what you said there, 100 goals and he's only 21, and I think people forget that. I'm always trying to defend him and say, listen, he's only 21, he's only a baby, he's got a lot to learn. You know, it's difficult to stay with him. You know, and somebody asked me a question last night, you know, would you cash in on him if he got the same money, if somebody offered 28 million? I don't think I would. I think he's got so much potential. Yeah, he's rough around the edges, but, you know, if they can hone those edges and make him a better player, I tell you what, at the moment, he's scoring goals and his record is fantastic. So hopefully another 3-4 years experience, he'll be even better.
And he's learning, isn't he? Things we were criticising him for 3 or 4 months ago, he's no longer doing so. He is only 21 and he's learning very, very quickly.
Well, definitely, Jen. And I think, you know, we talked about it many times before about the lack of service and the proper service he should be getting. I think now we're seeing more balls put into areas where he wants to be, you know, when he gets himself one-on-one with defenders, especially in wide areas where he can run at people. So over the last few weeks, you know, the service to him has been far better. You know, it's what he wants. Crosses in the box. You know, the first game in Bern where he scored a header kind of thing. That's what he thrives on. You know, the one against Leicester when the ball's got whizzed across, whether he's got the last touch, I don't know. But he needs service. And if you give him the service, I've got no doubt in my mind that he'll score goals.
Yeah. Brilliant, he did show that. Join us after the break and we're going to take a look back at last weekend's Premier League fixtures with David and Graeme. Hello and welcome back to Football Friday. We're going to move on now from Europa League and talk about the Premier League, which Liverpool seem to be doing a lot better in, don't they, David? A great result last weekend for them away at Southampton. Yeah,
tremendous result. I think it was a difficult game. It was always going to be a tough game and one that perhaps Liverpool really had to get something from. So to come away with the 3 points, I think, has given everybody a lift. There's a different type of belief there, I think, now. It's got other people, I think, around the country actually throwing Liverpool's name into the group that are chasing those places. I think up till perhaps last weekend, people still did think that Liverpool were on the fringe and maybe just out of it. But now they're very much in the mix, I think.
They are. What's changed for Liverpool over the last 10 games? I think they're unbeaten now in 10, which is a great achievement. What's changed for Liverpool to achieve that?
Well, outside of last night's game, I mean, there was only one loss in 18. So certainly momentum and confidence, belief, keeping clean sheets. There seems to be a sort of a better attitude in terms of defending situations. You know, Liverpool don't give up goals easily as they were. 5 clean sheets away from home consecutively, which is a great record, and certainly found a few of those things are foundations that you can actually build solid runs on, and clearly that there's a confidence, you know, running right through the group now. So yeah, it must be fun to be playing in that side at the moment. They're getting results sometimes when, you know, they're not necessarily on their best of form. Last week, perhaps they rode their luck slightly. I thought in the early part of the game, there were 1 or 2 sort of situations on another day. It might have gone against Liverpool, but they hung on in there, and ultimately, you know, the goal for Coutinho was special. And as we found last season as well, when we went down to Southampton, the longer the game went on, Liverpool seemed to be getting themselves back into a good situation and took control of the game and deservedly got a second goal, I think.
Now, you mentioned so many clean sheets there. Sami Mignolet obviously contributing towards these clean sheets very, very heavily. He seems to have totally turned around this season, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know where the confidence has come from. I read a little article from Simon a few weeks ago, but it seems to have been a personal thing and something that between him and his family, they've sort of managed to sort of bring into play. He does seem more dominant. He makes good decisions. Last night, even on a couple of occasions, you can see him make his mind up very, very clearly and quickly. Whereas in times before, he's looked a little bit dithery, not unsure, and that sort of has fed through the back line. But now everybody looks pretty much as one, and it's all credit to him. He's shown real character, and he looks the top goalkeeper that I think Liverpool thought that he'd signed initially.
Confidence is an incredible thing, you know, not just for individual, but as a team, as David said there as well, Jen. You know, if you're confident, you know, you can ride your luck a little bit, but you're confident that you've got the ability to go and snatch a point, go and win a game. So I think, as David says there about confidence in the team, I think when you look at the two Merseyside teams, I think Liverpool's confidence is high, whereas Everton's is really low. And it's about trying to build that confidence back. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck along the way, whether with the goalkeeper or whether with the team in general. But certainly Liverpool are in for a big shout for the top four. You know,
Definitely.
you look at the other teams in there, and you're looking at them in form and the players. You'd have to say that Liverpool are in the shout. You know,
We can't talk about that game without mentioning Philip Coutinho's goal. Unbelievable strike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was special. I mean, it had everything that you want to see from a Brazilian, you know, sort of bend, power, placement. A guy who's in good form at the moment. You know, he doesn't always sort of produce it, you know, game in, game out, Coutinho, but when he's on form, he's special. He does have some really silky skills, and you know, it was great inspiration to shoot from where he did last weekend. They stood off him a little bit, but had everything that you want to see, and you know, it's up there with the contenders for goal this season. It was outstanding.
I suppose conditions like that as well. Does it take a striker like that? 'Cause it's hard to play football in conditions like that, isn't it?
I think when you look at conditions, I think the worst conditions for footballers is the wind. You don't mind anything else. You're playing snow, rain, or whatever, but the wind's the worst conditions ever to play. You know, not just for goalkeepers, but for the whole team. And I know personally, I hated playing, you know, when it was really, really windy. But listen, take nothing away from Coutinho. He's been a fabulous player. You know, when you talk about people settling in, you know, he's only small. You know, he's coming into the hurly-burly of the English Premier League, and I think you're seeing the best of him now. I think he's a real quality player.
Now, not taking anything away from Liverpool, because that was a great win, but Southampton seem to be dwindling off, coming towards the end of the season. Have they given a bit too much that first half?
No, they won't believe that. They'll still think that they've got a shout. You know, and they've got a very good manager in there. I did fancy Liverpool to get a result down there. But no, I think they deserve an awful lot of credit. There's going to be a time and there's going to be a run of games where things don't go for them. It's how they react to that again. But no, I still think they'll be in the shake-up, Jen. I think they'll still be there or thereabouts. I think Liverpool have a bit more experience. Don't get me wrong, and the teams of Manchester United more experience than Southampton. But no, I think he's doing a really, really good job.
Sorry, go on, David.
I think Koeman put it down to perhaps a little bit of know-how from Liverpool's part. I mean, it's a new experience for some of the Southampton players to find themselves in such a good position and having to sometimes sort of really grind down results. I mean, early on in the season, games were going for them. They were winning games very, very comfortably. Now they're having to sort of just sort of cement victories a little bit harder, and maybe that little bit of know-how is sort of just deserting them a little bit. But he's a confident guy, Koeman, and he won't allow them to sort of let up. I think they're having a little bit of a problem, I think, in terms of scoring goals. Pele, who at the beginning of the season, everything was running for him, and Tadic, I think, equally, they were having great runs, scoring goals for fun. They're having a little bit of a problem now, and the main emphasis on goals seems to be falling on Mane, who, you know, it takes the eye. He's a decent player, but they need other people now, don't they, to sort of contributing with the goals, and that probably is going to be something that, you know, they're going to have to sort out if they're going to maintain that place.
And you mentioned there about experienced players being vital towards the end of the season. Are those players for Liverpool going to be the most important players come a few weeks' time when you're fighting it out for those places?
I think what Liverpool will have learned from last season, it will be vital now, I think, in this run-in. Players who have had to sustain, you know, good form, momentum. It's difficult to be in the running for competition, you know, to win competitions and to win those places in Champions League. And that's where maybe the likes of United, Southampton might just fall down. The experience that Liverpool and Arsenal have might just sort of be the telling factor, I think.
We'll see. Moving on to Everton now. Another 2-2 draw with Leicester. I think the fans expected a bit more, didn't they?
Definitely. We talked about it last week, and I said again, it's a must-win game. You've got to win games at home. I think that's 5 draws at home in the last 5 games at home. And, against Leicester, bottom of the league, you should be winning those games. All credit to Leicester. They come and they get a point, but they set up as we expected. They had three centre-backs. Got behind the ball, but again, it was down to us. We were at home. We've got to be the team that's imposing ourselves, and I don't think we did that. I think, again, which has been a problem for many weeks this season, is the fact that we moved the ball really, really slowly, and with moving the ball so slowly, Leicester got behind the ball and made it difficult for us. Okay, we get a goal, and then all of a sudden we're 2-1 down and we're chasing the game. The crowd are very, very, very nervy. But again, as I said at the beginning of the show, you know, Darren Gibson came on, Christian Atsu came on, and made a big, big difference. And you know, the fans can see that as well. You know, but it's disappointing, Jen. We need, and I keep looking at the league table and people are saying, oh yeah, Europe is great and we're doing really well. But every time I look at the league table, I am worried. I'm getting worried. Yeah. We're not that far away from the bottom three now. I think there's 6 points. You know, we've got a run of games going up. We go to Arsenal and then we have to go to Stoke, which isn't easy. So the games coming up are not easy for us. So yes, we hope that, we talked about confidence before as well. We hope that confidence from winning in Europe this week will stand us in good stead going to Arsenal, but we need to start picking up victories very, very quickly.
Absolutely, we do. And Tim Howard come under for a lot of criticism for both of those goals at Leicester. Do you think he was at fault for them?
Again, it's easy to pick, you know, scapegoats. You know, we talked before about windy conditions and everything else. No, I didn't necessarily think it was Tim's fault. Definitely not. And people are saying he should have a rest and give Robles a chance. I think Robles was maybe a little bit hard done to by, you know, after he had a run of, you know, 4 or 5 games where he did really well. But, you know, Tim's the number one choice and, you know, the manager's sticking by him. It wasn't Tim Howard's fault that we didn't beat Leicester. I think there's much more to it than that. Obviously, they'll be disappointed again last night conceding a goal from a set piece. You know, that's a disappointing thing. Every time the ball goes in the box at the moment, it looks as if the opposition are going to score. So, you know, Tim took a lot of criticism from the supporters. I wouldn't necessarily blame him. I think as a team we need to improve, we need to get better, and certainly in that final third, which I've said time and time again, with the introduction of Gibson, it'll be interesting to see what he does at Arsenal in terms of who he plays. Personally speaking, I think Darren Gibson's got to start.
I totally agree. Consistency seems to be a real issue for Everton this season. They've only won back-to-back games twice this season. It's vital to have some sort of consistency, isn't it, David?
Yeah, definitely at home, where you obviously want to make a difficult place to visit, and it's important that you develop a style. I think Everton haven't perhaps had the tempo of the game in recent times. You know, you go to Goodison and you're used to seeing Everton put teams under pressure, really getting at the opposition. They've allowed teams off the hook this season. I was very surprised actually to see Leicester take a grip on the game last week the way that they did, because having got the lead, Everton, I thought they would have gone on to a comfortable win. Yeah. As it was, take the foot off the gas a little bit, and I mean that's not Everton at Goodison, and you do have to make your home your fortress, don't you? So for the moment, Everton really have got to sort that out, I think.
The nervy performances at home. I think, you know, they're anxious, the players. We talked about confidence before, Jen, but the crowd are getting anxious as well, and that comes on to the players as well. So it's a difficult time playing at Goodison at the moment.
You mentioned Darren Gibson. I will just touch on that. He can make a difference, can't he? Because he is so attacker-minded.
Definitely. You know, when he first came, when Roberto Martinez first took over, I thought Darren was his perfect player, you know, just to sit in front of the back four and get on the ball. And you can see he's been at Manchester United. The way he passes the ball, he passes it with a crispness. He rattles things into people and he does everything quickly. The ball he put through for Morales last night was sensational. And James McCarthy and Gareth Barry do a job, you know, defensive job, keep things ticking over. But you need somebody to give you that extra threat. And we talked about the front four and Ross Bartley or whatever. We didn't get it, but Darren Gibson hopefully will give us that.
Let's hope so. Join us after the break. We're going to look forward to this weekend's Super Sunday games for both Everton and Liverpool. See you after the break. Hello and welcome back to Football Friday. We're going to turn our attention now to this weekend's Premier League fixtures. And Graeme, I'm going to start with Everton's trip to Arsenal. It's not going to be an easy win, is it?
No, it's not. It all depends what Arsenal we get. You know, I think Arsenal midweek, you know, are really, really poor against Monaco, losing 3-1, which is a shock to everybody, I think. So it'll be an interesting one. Is it a good time to go down to the Emirates? Probably, yeah. You know, I think, listen, it's always a difficult place to go and get a result, but you know, Everton coming off the back of their victory in Europe, go down there, they'll hopefully be full of confidence. Arsenal will be jittery, to say the least. It was really not like them at all in terms of a performance. So probably a good time to go down there, you know. And you know, sometimes you go down and you're thinking you'll never get something down there. It's going to be an Arsenal victory. But I've got a feeling that Everton could go down and get a result.
Everton seem to play better, don't they, against teams that also attack, which Arsenal obviously are. So we could see the better Everton sides again this
definitely.
weekend.
And I think, again, it'll be an interesting one, you know, what his selection, the manager's selection is going to be. We talked before previously about Darren Gibson. Should he start? For me, yes. So he's got a few selection issues in there, whether he plays the three midfield players, Barry, McCarthy and Gibson, and like he did last night. You know, I think that would be the ideal situation down at Arsenal. But at Arsenal, you've got to defend. You've got to defend. You know how expansive they try and make the pitch and try and make the game. We've got to be at our best defensively. But we can cause them problems. I think in the years gone by, you know, we've had some close encounters with Arsenal down there. So it's another game the boys should be looking forward to. And hopefully we can get a result.
Arsenal very dangerous going forward, but they don't seem to be as great at the back, do they? No,
not at all. Certainly they're a side that you can get at. Mertesacker and Koscielny look very uneasy at times, particularly Mertesacker, who was very much highlighted the other night how poor he was. But no, I agree with Graeme. I think it is a good time to be going to the Emirates. I think they will be shaky. I think they're in need of something, and exactly, you know, I don't think it's an easy answer for Arsene Wenger. I don't think you can just say that it's perhaps solidify the two centre-backs or whatever. I think they've got problems right round the team, and you know, they're not maybe well, they weren't as lethal in front of goal the other night as perhaps you would expect them to be. So a little bit of sort of nerves in that quarter as well. So no, it's a difficult game obviously, but it's one that certainly you sense Everton might just be able to get something out of it.
Yeah, you spoke about Mertesacker there, and I'll say again, you know, Lukaku, you know, surely this is a game for him. You know, if he can get himself 1-on-1 with Mertesacker, run away from him all day long. And as I said, there will be spaces at Arsenal. You know, of course they'll have a lot of ball, but hopefully Everton will have a lot of ball as well, and we can make that possession count this time. Not just aimlessly keeping it for the sake of keeping it, but making angles and passes for Lukaku to run after Mertesacker. But listen, they'll make changes. They've got some players coming back as well, so there's always a danger going forward. But I think, as David says, defensively, if we can get our game, you know, going forward up to what we expect, we can cause them problems.
And Alexis Sanchez obviously been Arsenal's star man this season. It's going to be hard to stop him, but it is vital to stop him if we want to get a result, isn't it?
We talked about it again off air about, you know, Arsenal and, you know, their performances. They're always there or thereabouts, but they just don't seem to be able to take that final step, you know, whether it be in the Champions League, whether it be winning the league. So they've got some great players, and for the players they've got, they should be doing an awful lot better. You know, I know the managers came under, you know, a lot of stick, you know, over the last couple of years. And in my eyes, quite rightly so. You know, I think they should be doing an awful lot better than what they are. But certainly Sanchez is a fantastic player. You know, Cazorla's a fantastic player as well. So they've got players who are really top drawer, who are really world class players. So we've got to be wary of them. But also they've got a weakness, and they've had the weakness for a few years now. And I think that has a defensive weakness. So hopefully we can put them to the sword. And
following Arsenal, we do have an away trip to Stoke also, which is going to be just as tough a game, isn't it?
It's going from one extreme to the other. You know, you go to the Emirates, which is a fantastic stadium, you know, fantastic facilities, team that play, you know, good football, and then you go to Stoke, where it's usually windy. You know, it's a tough place to go. Nobody likes going there. They've changed it a little bit. They've changed the way they play, but it's still not a nice place to go to. So that's one we have to roll up your sleeves and dig in and hopefully get a result.
How many points is good enough from those two fixtures, you think?
Well, two away fixtures, you know, I think on paper you take 2 points, but 4 would be absolutely a dream. You know, there's no reason why we can't go and get a result in one of the fixtures. By a result, I mean a win. You know, you're probably looking on paper, you're probably more likely to say it's probably going to be at Stoke. But I think, you know, we can get a result at Arsenal. So I would take 4 points would be fantastic, but I would take 3.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Liverpool face Manchester City, which seems to be, will be a very, very good tie, I'm sure. Liverpool coming just 55 hours, I think it worked out at, after playing the Europa League game last night. Is that going to make it harder for Liverpool to get a result against Man City?
Well, I think it's not helpful, but you know, with the changes perhaps that were brought about, you know, a few key players have had a good rest, and hopefully that's going to be sort of to Liverpool's advantage. But clearly, City have had a difficult week themselves. They've had plenty of rest, granted, but they've had a difficult week. Liverpool can go into this game with confidence. The record against City is pretty good. You know, City, for all the quality that they have, they don't find it easy coming to Anfield. And even though perhaps this is very much right on the back of the game last night, Liverpool can go about their business with confidence, knowing that their home form is getting better all the time. The run of games that I've said that we're in as well is also very good. So it's an attractive fixture, and that's the game. You know, they're the type of games that everybody wants to be involved in. People will remember last year's game against City, which was really attractive. It, you know, nip and tuck. We know it's not going to be easy, but it's one that Liverpool, you know, certainly know that they can get something out of.
When you rest players for a weekend game, is there more pressure to get a result, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's always pressure in getting a result, Jen. Doesn't matter what your team is. But listen, again, Liverpool Man City, a massive game. You know, so the players that will be rested will be chomping at the bit to get in there and play and try and make an impression. I don't think it makes any difference. I think, you know, the players get themselves up for it. They want to play in every single game, but if they're left out, they might just come back with that hungrier attitude. But I'm not sure. Again,
just like Arsenal, I think City seem to be a team that are so great and deadly going forward. But I think they've got weaknesses at the back, haven't they, David?
Yeah, I don't think they're convincing through the centre. But Company had a great year a couple of years ago, but since I think he looks vulnerable. I don't think he is the top player that some people would have you think at times.
Had a few injury problems.
Yeah, he's had some problems. They can't get the left back position right at all. Whoever goes in there is unsettled. I mean, Zabaletta's a different kettle of fish. I mean, solid and dependable. You know what you're going to get from him. But certainly across the back there, I think they give you opportunities. I've never been Hart's biggest fan. I appreciate he's a decent goalkeeper, but they're a side that I think you'll always get opportunities against. Problem for City is the midfield. I mean, the midfield is outstanding, and if Toure and Silva are on form, then they're obviously going to put you under pressure. They're going to make inroads into your back line, so Liverpool are going to have to be really resolute, and they're going to have to be at their defensive best, I think. But no, it's attractive. Don't know who'll play up front. Aguero is lethal, but I mean, Boney is in there as well. Boney, Dzeko looks a little bit sort of not as mobile as perhaps other options, but no, they've got their threat. But
see, I think again the pressure's on Manchester City. You know, again the European performance is really poor. Okay, they're playing Barcelona, but you know, for the team and the squad and the money, they should be doing an awful lot better. You know, and you know they're still in the championship race. Don't get me wrong, but this is a massive game for them. You know, they've got to go to Liverpool and get a result. And as David says before, Liverpool have got a decent record against Man City, so it's not going to be an easy game for them.
Can we see Balotelli starting, do you think? He'll relish that surely, won't he?
He would do. It'd be an interesting one. Since the fact that he started last night, I just wonder whether or not Brendan would go with Balotelli. He may go with the sort of the system that he's had in recent weeks with Sturridge alone, a lone striker, and then the support in behind him, like Coutinho, Sterling. Lallana. I'd be surprised if Balotelli starts.
Well, Liverpool are fighting right up now for those Champions League places, as you said. Are these the vital games that you need to win if come the end of the season you want to be in that top four?
Strangely, I thought I put more emphasis on winning at Southampton last week than maybe Manchester City. Strangely, I mean, we want to win our home games, but I think getting closer to the likes of Southampton and getting above Tottenham was vital. City now, it's a different kettle of fish. They're going for the championship, and it is a huge game for Manchester City. But
Liverpool can't afford to slip up in games where they're expected to win. You know, and David, Southampton and against the smaller teams as well, they're expected to win. Man City, they want to win kind of thing, but I don't think that'll have a massive effect on where they finish. I think Liverpool got a run of games coming up where on paper you think we should win them. That's where they've got to win them. And if they do that, they'll be in and around 4th spot.
One of those games is Burnley midweek, which Liverpool should comfortably win that game, shouldn't they? They go from a top of the table team to one right down the bottom.
Yeah, everybody knows Burnley have been thrown in some surprises in recent weeks, and clearly it's not a team that you can take lightly. But it is obviously a fixture that you think to yourself, well, you should be beating Burnley at Anfield. Granted, Liverpool have slipped up already this season at home against Leicester, noticeably around New Year. So they can't afford to just think, well, you know, the City game will look after itself, and then Burnley will be easy. They've got to approach each game very much on its merits. But it's an interesting week for Liverpool, and it's a big week. And if they could take 6 points from these 2 games, I mean, that would be an incredible return.
Would it be important to keep consistency in those 2 games to have, in player terms, meaning is it good to see the same players starting on Sunday that you want to see on Wednesday as well?
Depending on how the game goes, I think on Sunday. I think you judge it on, you know, after the dust has settled, and then you see who's fit, who's featured.
Perfect. Thank you. Join us after the break. We're going to take a look back at Tranmere's fixtures last weekend and see what our legends think of a Winter World Cup. Join us after the break. Hello and welcome back to the final part of today's Football Friday. Don't forget, if you've got any questions for our legends, please send them in to footballfriday@baytvliverpool.com. We're going to turn our attention now to Tranmere, who've played 2 games this week. 2 contrasting results. They beat top of the table at the time Shrewsbury last weekend, and then threw a 2-0 lead away midweek against Portsmouth. They can't seem to find any sort of consistency in that league, can they?
Well, they can't, but, you know, I think that's the result against Shrewsbury surprised everybody. You know, I didn't expect them to get anything. We talked about it over the last few weeks about, you know, how they've got to try and win games and build on the confidence level again. And obviously, you know, the game against Shrewsbury, which was a fantastic result. So you're thinking, go on then, kick on. You know, you get yourself, you know, ahead at Portsmouth. You're thinking, okay, we've just turned the corner now. And all of a sudden the roof falls in. So it's unfortunately when you're down there, that's what happens. You know, and we talked about, you know, they need to get a run of games together where they're picking up points. They'll be delighted with the Shrewsbury performance, but not so much with the Portsmouth.
And throwing away a 2-0 lead, never good for confidence levels, is it?
No, it's a roller coaster season for Tranmere, and we know since we've been following them how up and down their form is, and they every now and again they throw a great result in. That one last week was particularly outstanding. But to go to Portsmouth, never easy, I don't think. No. And in midweek, you know, it's still the wintry conditions down there. I felt for them a little bit on the back of the Shrewsbury game. They could have done with maybe a little bit more of a more comfortable game. Instead, they go down there, do well, as you point out, get into a 2-goal lead. But the nature of the goals that they gave away were poor goals, and I noticed, you know, when sort of as the balls hit the back, and everyone's looking around at each other and sort of saying, you know, who's reacted, who's reacted there, and that's something that I think they're going to have to be on their toes if they're going to sort of get themselves away from the relegation battle. Then I think they've got to really be resolute at the back, not give away silly goals.
They are, because it seems to be just small margins they're losing by. They're not getting trounced by teams week after week, are they?
No, not at all. You know, Mickey Adams will look at all the positives again, you know, preparing for the weekend, and, you know, he'll look at the Shrewsbury game and he'll be saying to his players, listen, you've shown, you know, that you can mix it with the best. You know, we've got to make sure you get that consistency. And when we talk about that, we've talked about it for weeks and weeks, you know, that's why they're down the bottom, because they can't get that consistency. And unfortunately, with players down at that level, it's really difficult. You know, if they show a level of consistency in the performances, they usually move on, don't they? So they're down there. You know, they've got a group of players. I know they're not the highest payers in the league as well. So it's a difficult time for Tranmere. It's important they hang on in there. But again, confidence is a good thing. The confidence they'll have taken from beating top of the league will be massive. But again, as David says, they need to eradicate the mistakes that are leading to losing goals.
This weekend they travelled to Cheltenham, who are in the relegation zone. It's okay beating top of the table teams, but they're the teams you've really got to beat, isn't it? The teams you're fighting it out with at the bottom. Do you think they can win? Definitely.
You know, it's a huge fixture, but I mean, each week we're saying the same thing. But if they can beat the sides that are in and around them, then I mean, they're going to give themselves a little bit of a chance. And obviously, it's the negative effect it has on the opponents as well if you're taking points off them. So, you know, fingers crossed for them this weekend.
Let's hope so. Okay, big talk this week about the World Cup in Qatar 2022. Looks very, very likely now that it's going to be played in the winter. What's your view on a Winter World Cup, Graeme?
I'm totally against it. I think for all the years the World Cup showcase event has been in the summer. I'm all for spreading it around the world and everything else, but I think that the effect it's going to have in the leagues, you know, not just the Premier League but European leagues as well, I think it's madness. I honestly believe I thought it was madness when they got the World Cup in the first place. You know, we talked about it time and time again about how they could possibly play in the heat, you know, in the desert, you know, but all of a sudden they've came to this decision. They're going to have it in the winter just before Christmas. I think the final's supposed to be on the 23rd, which is absolutely madness. I just think it's an absolute crazy decision, Jennifer, to be fair, to even allow them to have it.
David, would you back a Winter World Cup?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly Qatar should never have got the World Cup. I mean, it's been a disaster from the bidding process right through. I mean, the goalposts have moved along the way, which is unfair on other countries, the likes of Australia, who probably had an outstanding case to host the World Cup. And you sense perhaps that would have done better things for football across the world had somebody like Australia being able to host the World Cup. So disappointed really that they've taken this decision. Clearly it's going to play havoc with all kinds of sort of competitions throughout Europe and also the domestic stuff. So how it all pans out, it's going to be a mystery, I think.
Yeah, the thing is as well, it's not just going to be a knock-on effect for 1 year. It's going to take 4, 5, 6 years to get it back into the way we're used to, the way we'd be used to having it with our league campaign and Champions League and everything else. It's going to have a massive effect in football. And FIFA seem to be the case of, that's it, we don't care about that, you can put your own house in order, we're having it there, get on with it. And I think that's the wrong attitude to take.
Well, as you said, it's going to affect so many different seasons. Could we see the end of the tradition of football played the way it is now end?
Yeah, I mean, exactly how the European teams can confront this remains to be seen. I think there seems to be quite a strong voice behind this decision. You know, the likes of Karl-Heinz Rummenigge we've heard this week, and I think there's a lot more to be said in terms of how the European clubs will sort of confront it. But no, it's dangerous, and it does set an awkward precedent, I think.
Well, the people in the Middle East will argue, though, well, if we're not going to play it in the winter, does that mean we're never entitled to have a World Cup in our...
I can understand that, Jennifer, but do we know, is Qatari League, is it one of the top leagues in the world? Do they play, I couldn't tell you who the teams are. You know, so football's not really a big thing over there. Of course, to get the World Cup it is, don't get me wrong, but as David said, he mentioned Australia. I think there's other countries out there who were in the bidding process and it should have been looked at a lot better than this. Obviously, there's all these conspiracy theories coming about. But for me, it was a crazy decision, absolutely crazy decision. Even if they have it in the winter, the temperature is still really, really high. You know, and you're talking about fans, you know, look at the strict laws they have over there as well. Do football fans want to go over there and participate and, you know, following the team over there? I think it's absolutely crazy. I honestly do. I don't know who made the decision. Obviously, Sepp Blatter's at the forefront of FIFA, but madness, absolutely madness.
We'll see how that one pans out. OK, the first silverware of the season's up for grabs this weekend when Chelsea take on Spurs in the Capital One Cup. David, who do you see taking home that trophy?
I can't really see Tottenham surprising Chelsea, if I'm honest. I think a bit between their teeth. These are the type of events that Chelsea sort of make count, or opportunities that they make count, and certainly after Tottenham's perhaps form in midweek, yeah, I'm making Chelsea the favourites.
Yeah, I think they've got too much experience and big game experience. Tottenham have done really well. Disappointed to go out the Europa League this week, but I think Chelsea in the big games know how to play them. The manager's got all the experience as well, so you'd have to make Chelsea favourites, and I can see them picking up that trophy.
Two of the top strikers are going to be on show, the two top strikers in the Premier League this season, and Harry Kane and Diego Costa. Is it going to be a key of who plays better out of those two? Could come out on top?
Yeah, I think Kane's been phenomenal this season. I think he's caused Chelsea problems before in the league, so it's one for John Terry and whoever's playing alongside him to keep him quiet, but for me, I think it still should be Costa. You know, a big game player, you know, and has been around. Harry Kane's just new in the scene, so I still shade it for Costa for me and for Chelsea to win it.
And Jose Mourinho won't take too well to lose in that if he does lose, will he, David?
No, they owe Tottenham one, so to speak. I mean, they had that nasty defeat early on in the season. Costa's had a little bit of an unfortunate run of late. I mean, I can see him perhaps making this his day on Sunday.
Yeah, his chance to shine maybe. Now, Mourinho's also been in the press this week for
He has
his...
he?
Again, of course he has, about his comments of the tackle from Ashley Barnes on Matic last weekend. What did you make of that tackle?
I thought it was a bad tackle. I thought it was a really bad tackle. You know, whether the intent was there, I'm not too sure, but the tackle was a bad one. So I think he had every right to complain about it. Maybe gone over the top a little bit with his comments and carried it on too long. But what I didn't like was the fact that Matic got sent off for his reaction, which it was only a shove, and then misses out in a showcase final. So that's a disappointing thing for me from the whole incident. But I thought it was a red card. I thought the boy Barnes should have been sent off.
It's such a shame, isn't it, for Matic to now miss a final just for having a reaction that probably 99% of footballers would have, isn't it?
Yeah, moments of madness perhaps on his part, but unfortunately he was the only one probably who really felt the the impact of the challenge. It wasn't noticeable to everybody. So people wondered about why he was so explosive, but he was very harshly dealt and could quite easily perhaps. Yeah, I think they could have overlooked. They could have given him a punishment of some sort without the suspension, I suspect.
Yeah, I totally agree. Would you like to see a bigger punishment, though, for tackles like that made? Should Ashley Barnes have been punished?
Yeah, I think so. Listen, only he will know, what his intent was there. Whether did they mean it? Was it an accident kind of thing? These things can happen at the speed of the game nowadays. Only he can answer that question. So it's a really difficult one, Jennifer, to decide. Did he mean it? Did he not mean it? But looking at it again in slow motion, it was a horrendous tackle. Difficult one.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for your time today, Graeme, and to David as well. Join us next week when we're going to take a look back at 2 Premier League fixtures from each Everton and Liverpool. See you next week.